If you are hearing this, you have been chosen to hear it. But the enemy of your soul does not want this seed to take root. He will distract you, convince you to forget, tell you to dismiss this as just another story. That is why I am telling you now, with all the weight of what I have seen, this may be your last chance to hear truth before the door closes. My name is Elias Marrow. I should not be breathing. I should not be here to speak to you. But I am here because I made a vow spoken with lips cold from death, a vow I could not take back. I promised him that if I returned, I would tell the world what I saw. No matter the cost, no matter the weight it placed on me, no matter who would turn away from me when they heard it. I died, and in that place where no clocks tick and no shadows fall, I saw him, not in a dream, not in imagination, but in the fullness of his reality. And he told me something that has not stopped ringing in my soul since that moment. August 2025 is your last chance. Those words were not gentle suggestions. They were not poetic riddles to interpret at leisure. They were a sentence carved in eternity, the kind of truth that cannot be bargained with. There was an urgency in his eyes I had never seen before, as though the heavens themselves were leaning forward, counting down. When I woke from that place, the world around me was exactly the same, and yet completely different, because I knew what time it was, not in hours and minutes, but in eternity's clock. I know even now some of you are restless. Your finger hovers, ready to scroll. Your mind whispers, "Not now. I'll listen later. This isn't for me." But that's the lie I'm here to shatter. This is for you. If these words have reached your ears, they have done so because heaven allowed them to. And if you turn away, you will not have the excuse of ignorance. This is the moment when your soul will remember, whether you want it to or not. If you are hearing this, you have been chosen to hear it. But the enemy wants you to scroll away. Subscribe to the Serene Bible now before this message is buried forever. If you refuse, write in the comments why you turned away from truth, and let your own words stand as your witness. Do not lie to yourself. Do not tell yourself there will be a better moment, a calmer day, a more convenient time to face what is coming. There is no such time. There is only now. There is only the choice in front of you. I am speaking because I must. Because the words I heard beyond death are burning inside my chest like fire shut up in my bones. Because I know what is coming. And because I would rather stand here rejected by the whole world than be silent before the one who sent me back. He called my name in the dark, and now, he is calling yours. Before the night I left this world, my life looked ordinary enough to pass for peace. But peace is not the same as life. I was a student then. My days unfolded in predictable rituals, waking late after nights lit by the blue glow of my laptop, drinking coffee so bitter it felt like punishment, walking to class with earbuds sealing me in my own private fog. I kept my head down in the hallways, not because I feared people, but because I feared what I might see in their eyes. Judgment, curiosity, pity. From the outside, I laughed easily. I told stories. I sat in groups at the student lounge, but all of it was paper thin. The smile was only ever a mask, and under it lived a loneliness that didn't speak in words. It whispered in the quiet moments between conversations, in the long walks back to my dorm when the air felt too still, in the hours I spent staring at the ceiling, wondering why the ache never left. There was a darkness that followed me, not always loud but constant. It didn't rage, it didn't claw, it waited. I tried to drown it. I surrounded myself with noise, music, screens, voices that meant nothing, because silence had a way of making it rise from the shadows and sit beside me, and I could not bear its presence for long. I thought I had time to get better, time to sort myself out, time to live the way I wanted and find my way back to God when I was older, more stable, less broken. But something was off. I could feel it in small ways. The mornings when the air felt heavier than it should. The nights when I woke suddenly, certain I had heard my name but finding no one there. The sharp sting in my chest that would come and go without warning, as if my own heart was testing its limits. There were moments, brief, fleeting, when the world seemed thinner, as though the veil between here and something far greater had worn fragile. I would catch myself staring into nothing, feeling watched, not with malice, but with a gaze so piercing I could not meet it for long. Even then, he was calling my name in the dark, but I didn't answer. I buried myself deeper in routine, trying to convince myself that as long as the assignments were turned in and my grades were steady, my life was fine. Yet every night I lay down, a question sat at the edge of my mind like an unwelcome visitor. What if I am not fine? What if my life is not my own? I told myself those thoughts were just anxiety, the kind that comes and goes. But they never truly went. They simply waited, patient as stone, silent as the grave, until the night they would no longer wait at all. And on that night, the thin veil tore. He called my name in the dark, and this time, I could not pretend not to hear. I remember the moment the veil began to tear. It was sudden, so sudden, that my mind could not catch up with my body. One moment, I was standing in the rhythm of the ordinary, breathing in the air that felt so solid and sure. And the next, I felt that air slip away like sand falling between trembling fingers. It began with a weight in my chest, small, almost ignorable, like a whisper of warning I didn't yet understand. But then, it deepened. My heartbeat no longer felt like a steady drum. It was slow, heavy, each beat like a tolling bell in the distance, ringing for someone I did not yet realize was me. I tried to steady myself, but it was as though the world's edges blurred. The colors faded, the sounds muted, and the body I had always called my own began to feel like an anchor slipping into deep waters. I remember the way my vision narrowed, not in fear, but in surrender, like the curtains being drawn at the close of a long performance. And then came the stillness, a stillness deeper than silence, a stillness that felt like the pause between a question and an answer. I could feel the distance between me and my own body growing. My hands, once so responsive, were heavy stone at the ends of my arms. My breath was shallow, each one thinner than the last, until I realized I wasn't breathing at all. I saw myself, lying there. It was strange, almost tender, to behold the vessel that had carried me. It was not horrifying. It was humbling. My body looked so fragile, so temporary, as if it had always been clay waiting to be returned to the hands that shaped it. Then, there was the light. Not a harsh light, not the blinding glare of earthly brightness, but a living light. It didn't strike my eyes, it embraced them. It seemed to come from everywhere, yet it also seemed to have a center, a heart that was calling to me. And in that light, there was calm. The kind of calm you could weep inside of without shame. It wrapped around me, weightless yet stronger than any wall. I could no longer feel the fear of leaving, only the ache of realizing how little I had known of true peace until that moment. I began to drift toward it, not walking, not flying, just being drawn. Every part of me was responding to that call. The closer I came, the more I could sense that this was not just light, it was presence. And in that presence was a love that pierced me clean through, yet healed me all at once. I wanted to go deeper. I wanted to disappear into it. I wanted to be known in a way that left no shadow behind. And then, softly without sound, I felt it. A voice without words, a summoning without language, but I understood it as if I had always known. He called my name in the dark, and when he did, I knew this was not the end. This was the beginning of the truest thing I had ever known. It was as if the darkness had a mouth, and it opened, not to swallow me, but to release me. The weight of the earth was gone. The ceiling of my existence had shattered, and before me, a tunnel, not of stone or brick, but of living light. It was not the brightness of the sun, for no eye could survive such a thing. It was softer, yet it pierced me entirely. The light felt alive. It moved. It breathed. It reached out like 1,000 gentle hands, inviting me without force, drawing me without chains. Every step forward was not taken with my feet, but with something deeper. My very being was moving. And the sound. Oh, the sound. It was music, but not music you could ever hold in notes or capture in strings. It was the sound of water kissing the shore, the sound of wind speaking to the trees, the sound of 1,000 voices, yet none competing. Every tone was a color, and every color was a feeling, and every feeling was love. Return to the fire. The refrain hummed in the core of me, as if the light itself was singing it, not in human language, not even in words, but I understood it as though I had always known it. Shapes began to form within the brilliance. They were not solid like the world I had left, yet they were more real than anything I had ever touched. Some glowed with an uncontainable radiance, like walking flames of gold. Others were dim, their light flickering thin as smoke, as though something had almost devoured them. But none were ignored. None were cast aside. The love in that place was so complete that even the dim were bathed in warmth. I felt their awareness on me, not as strangers looking at a newcomer, but as family recognizing one who had been gone far too long. They did not speak, yet their welcome wrapped around me like a garment. I felt the truth of them deep in my marrow. They knew my story. They knew my scars. Return to the fire. The whisper became a pulse, matching something within me, like a heartbeat I had never truly heard before. I wanted to run to the center of that light, to dissolve into it, to never return to the shadow of earth. But someone, held me at the threshold. And in that holding, there was no cruelty, only a deliberate pause, as if the next breath would decide everything. The air, if I can call it air, was alive. It carried scents that had no earthly counterpart. It was as if blossoms I had never seen and waters I had never tasted were mingling, telling me without words that here, nothing dies, nothing withers, nothing fades. Then I heard them, not with ears, but with the depth of my soul, those who had crossed before me. Some voices were tender as lullabies, some were strong as battle hymns. They whispered, "Keep speaking, keep speaking." It was not a command, it was a commission. And I knew then, this place was not the end. It was the beginning of everything real. And yet, the refrain kept moving through me like breath itself. Return to the fire. Return to the fire. It was as though the light itself remembered me before I had even known it existed. And it was calling me home. I remember the moment when the brilliance broke through, a light so fierce yet so gentle that it seemed to breathe. It was not the sun, for the sun has shadows. This had none. It was not the fire of earth, for earthly fire consumes. This fire purified without burning. And there, emerging from the center of that uncreated light, he stood. I had no need for introductions. Every fiber of my being recognized him before my mind could form the thought. The one whom prophets long to see, whom angels veil their faces before, whom the oceans obey and the stars adore. It was Jesus. Glory rested on him like living air. And yet, the tenderness in his eyes was enough to undo me completely. One glance, and my entire life unfolded, not as I told it, but as heaven had recorded it. Every thought I had whispered when I believed no one could hear, every motive behind the words I spoke, every secret turning of my heart when I thought I was hidden. It was all there, suspended between us, bathed in his light, inescapable, undeniable. And yet, oh, this is the mystery. There was no contempt in him, only truth, and love so vast it broke me open. He spoke without moving his lips, and the words entered not just my ears, but the marrow of my soul. You were brought here for a reason. Those words were not an invitation. They were a summons. They were the fulfillment of something I did not even know I had prayed for. And I knew, in that instant, that reason was not for my comfort, not for my ease, not for me to return unchanged. It was for obedience. It was for testimony. It was for warning. Because in his presence I understood, The world is drowning and most are too enchanted with the waves to even notice. Child of dust, hear me. You were not brought here to be entertained. You were brought here to be warned. Do not treat these words as decoration for your mind. They are fire for your soul. Subscribe to the Serene Bible now, because this might be the only chance you get to hear this truth. If you will not, then at least confess in the comments why you would choose silence over salvation. His gaze did not release me, and in it, I saw every opportunity I had wasted, every moment I had chosen comfort over courage. Yet I also saw the thin golden thread of his mercy, still stretched toward me, still unbroken. I whispered within myself. He called my name in the dark, and the words felt like both a confession and a vow. For in that holy light, there was no possibility of pretending. There was no mask, no defense, no escape, only truth, only him. And even now, telling you this with the weight of eternity still pressing against my chest, I know, if I had turned away in that moment, if I had closed my ears to the reason he had called me there, my soul would have been lost forever. He called my name in the dark, and now, I am calling yours. The air around him shifted, and I knew, this was not merely a moment, this was a summons. His eyes, deeper than oceans, older than stars, locked into mine, and my soul opened like a scroll. I could feel my life laid bare, every heartbeat from birth until now illuminated in his gaze. And then he spoke, not with sound, but with truth that entered the marrow of my bones. August 2025. The words burned in the air between us, not as a date on a calendar, but as a dividing line carved through eternity. On one side, I saw a world still clothed in a fragile peace. On the other, a storm unraveling every illusion we had wrapped ourselves in. The vision widened. Cities trembled as the ground cracked beneath them. Nations raged, their voices sharp with hatred. Families tore themselves apart over lies too small to name. I saw churches with lights still burning, yet their altars cold, their prayers hollow, their songs sung to a God they no longer feared. And yet, amid the shaking, I saw them, the remnant. Not the loudest, not the strongest, but those whose knees had bent in secret, whose hearts had learned to burn in the silence. Their faces glowed with a quiet defiance. They were the ones who still whispered his name when the world demanded they curse it. And the refrain rose in my spirit like a bell, tolling in the midnight. The time is now. Choose. I felt the weight of his warning. This was not a call to curiosity. This was not a riddle for scholars. This was a line drawn in fire. He showed me that most would not cross. Few will listen. Most will fall away. Not because they didn't hear, but because the truth cost more than they were willing to surrender. Again, the refrain echoed. The time is now. Choose. I saw the shaking before the restoration, not chaos without purpose, but a holy breaking meant to strip away everything false. And yet, even in that mercy, the world would scream in rebellion. Men would blame God for the idols he had shattered. Women would clutch the chains he had broken. Children would grow in houses where the name of Jesus was no longer spoken except in jest. And I stood trembling, because I knew my own weakness. If not for his mercy, I too would be swept away. The time is now. Choose. That voice, that holy echo, would not leave me. And then, the fire of his gaze pressed into me like a final seal. If you want to stand when others fall, you must not walk away from the truth being given to you freely now. Subscribe before this light is taken from your eyes. If you won't, explain in the comments why you choose to reject the call. My spirit trembled at the thought, the light taken from the eyes, and never returned. Even now, speaking to you, I feel the same urgency burning in my chest, because August 2025 is not far, and when the dividing line comes, no one will stand in the middle. The time is now. Choose. I see it now as clearly as I saw it in that place, the horizon changing. What was once wrapped in the colors of despair now begins to breathe again. Not with the shallow breath of human optimism, but with the deep, ancient wind of the spirit returning to the land. At first, only a few, their hands trembling, their eyes red from years of wandering in the dark. They do not come with banners or fanfare. They come with broken Bibles clutched to their chests, pages torn, spines worn, ink faded. And yet, those words within are burning again, as if the breath of heaven has fallen upon them like fire upon dry wood. I see living rooms transformed into holy ground, kitchens into sanctuaries, bedrooms into upper rooms. The prayers are not polished. They are raw. They are halting. But they are soaked in tears and lit with faith. Children who had never heard their parents pray now kneel beside them. Old men who thought their voices too weak now thunder in whispers that shake the walls. And it spreads, house to house, street to street, city to city. It is not a revival built by human plans. It is not a movement advertised with slogans. It is the sound of a remnant remembering who they are, a people who were once dead now standing in resurrection light. Nations begin to tremble, not because armies rise, but because truth is no longer chained. Governments whisper in secret chambers, unable to understand how the hearts of millions have been pierced by something they cannot legislate away. And in this vision, I hear the voice again, steady and relentless. The time is now. Choose. There is no neutral ground, no fence to sit on. Every heart will bend, either to the fire of his love or the weight of his judgment. I knew in that moment that this vision was not given to me to admire like a painting. It was a charge, a warning, a lifeline thrown to those still drifting. And so I must speak it plainly to you. If you want to be among the remnant who rise in the days ahead, seal this truth in your life. Subscribe to the Serene Bible. Now, if you cannot bring yourself to do so, then be honest. Admit in the comments why you hesitate, because hesitation is a decision, and decisions echo in eternity. The time is now. Choose. The vision lingers in my mind, the glow of small lamps in windows, the sound of prayers weaving through the night like a river of light. And I cannot shake the truth. This is coming, and you will either be in it or watching from the outside as the door closes. I woke in a hospital bed, but it was not the same world I had left. The light in the room was cold and strange, not the light of heaven, nor the deep shadow of that other place, but something in between, a threshold. Every sound felt distant, like the hum of machines was happening in another dimension. Every face leaned over me with curiosity, but none of them knew that I had crossed a line from which there is no casual return. I carried his fire in my chest, burning, unyielding, uncomfortably alive. It was not a comfort. It was a burden. Every heartbeat was a drumbeat of remembrance. The time is now. Choose. And with each pulse, I understood. I could not go back to what I was. I could not pretend I had not seen. But when I began to speak, when I began to tell the truth, the world responded as it always does to inconvenient voices. Some laughed, like my words were a child's fantasy. Some smiled politely and changed the subject. Some grew angry, very angry, as though my story was an accusation they could not bear to hear. The mocking was subtle at first, like whispers in the corridors. Then came the dismissals, the messages left unanswered, the invitations that never came. Friends drifted away, as though the fire inside me made me dangerous to touch. I saw it in their eyes. She's gone too far. And in the nights that followed, I learned something that heaven had not shown me in visions, that when you carry truth, darkness comes looking for you. The shadows in my room moved when they should not have moved. Dreams became battlegrounds. I would wake with my throat raw, my chest tight, as if I had been running, wrestling, resisting something I could not name. Even my devices glitched. screens flickering, files disappearing, recordings cutting off just before I spoke the most important words. It was resistance, not from flesh and blood, but from that which hates the light. And in those hours, alone, half awake, half praying, I would hear again the refrain that marked my soul. The time is now. Choose. And I knew. Every day I delayed speaking was a day the darkness gained ground. This is why I am here now. Because I vowed, lying between life and eternity, that if I returned, I would not let fear keep my mouth closed. I would not let convenience bury the fire. And so I say this to you, not as entertainment, not as curiosity, but as a warning, a covenant, even. They will try to silence me. They will try to silence every voice that tells the truth. Subscribe now before this testimony is erased from your reach. If you don't, one day you will remember this moment, and regret will taste like ashes. For there will come a time, sooner than you think, when this light will be harder to find, when the voices calling for repentance will be drowned by the noise of false peace. And when that day comes, you will remember how the fire burned here in these words, how the refrain still lingers, like a bell tolling in the distance. The time is now. Choose. August 2025 is not a suggestion. It is not a number floating in the air, waiting to be ignored. It is not a superstition, nor a harmless date circled on some forgotten calendar. It is a deadline, a threshold, a closing gate. The Spirit whispered it to me before I returned, when the light and the darkness stood on either side of my soul, each waiting to claim me. I did not understand it then, but I understand it now. August 2025 is the turning of the tide, the last open window before the storm breaks in full. After it, the shaking will not be a warning. It will be the consequence. I have seen the war, not the one on your screens, not the one fought with nations and flags, but the invisible war clawing for your eternity, a war for your soul. And I must tell you this. You were chosen to hear this. Yes, you. Out of millions who will scroll past, who will roll their eyes, who will dismiss this as fear-mongering or madness, you were chosen to hear it. That means the weight of this moment now rests on your shoulders. Do not pretend you are neutral. Do not lie to yourself with the comfort of delay. Every breath you take after hearing this is a declaration, either toward the fire of His presence or toward the cold ash of eternal separation. He called my name in the dark. I hear it still. That same call now reaches for you. Do you feel it? That tightening in your chest, the pull that is not from me but from Him. That is the mercy before the verdict, the invitation before the sealing. I have no authority to spare you from what is coming. I can only tell you that the hourglass has been turned and the sand is running out. The shaking is near. It will strip away every comfort you built without God. It will test every truth you claim to believe. And when the ground splits beneath you, it will not be your wealth, your cleverness, or your excuses that hold you. It will be the depth of your surrender. If you leave this moment unchanged, you have chosen your side. Do not say later that no one told you. Subscribe to Near the Serene Bible. Now, not for me, but for the day when the voices of truth will be silenced, and all you will have left are the echoes of what you once heard but did not heed. Subscribe, so that when the shaking begins, the anchor of these words will still be within your reach. If not, then write in the comments your reason. Seal it in public for the record, because the record will not be erased. One day, you will remember this moment, and your own words will testify against you. He called my name in the dark. I will not forget it, neither will you. The night feels heavier now, not because the air is thick, but because truth, once seen, never lets you go. It follows you into every room, into every thought. It stares at you in the mirror. It whispers in the silence between heartbeats. This is not just my story. It is yours. Yours, whether you will claim it or deny it. I was given breath again, not to boast of surviving, but to tremble under the responsibility of telling you what I saw. The veil is lifting. The world you think you know is already gone. And yet, most walk as if nothing has shifted. They laugh, they scroll, they plan, and the clock keeps counting. I have watched the sun set since my return, and each one feels like it carries more weight than the last. August is not a word on a calendar anymore. It is a door, a narrow door, and not all will walk through it. Return to the Gospels. Return to Christ. Return to the fire that first made your heart tremble with love for Him. Because when the shaking comes, and it will, your hands will grasp for something to hold. And if it is not Him, you will find your fingers closing on smoke. Let the world go. Let the accolades go. Let the possessions and the secret ambitions slip through your grasp. They are sand in a clenched fist, and soon the tide will take them all. I have carried this vow since the moment I opened my eyes in that hospital bed. I will speak, even if my voice is the last thing you remember before the storm breaks. Because nothing you cling to now will matter when August passes. I hear the refrain still, like a pulse under the skin of time. He called my name in the dark, and now He calls yours. Will you rise, or will you remain asleep? The silence after this question is not empty. It is holy. It waits for your answer.